Hey there, and welcome to Be Unmessable with the podcast. I'm your host, Josselyne Herman-Saccio, and today our guest is Derek Newborn, and he is the guy who's helping women rediscover their self-worth, reshape their bodies, and reclaim the confidence that they've been missing through his DIVORCED community. That's right, divorced community. So we're going to find out all about that. And we're so happy that he said yes to being on the show. Let's welcome Derek.
Nice to meet you. How's it going?
Very well, very well. Where are you in the world?
I am in Ocala, Florida.
You okay from the hurricanes and everything?
Yep,
Clearly.
up here we are. I just moved up here a few months ago, but my old hometown got hit, but we're used to it, It's just part of
I
part of
guess it's
living
part
here.
of living in Florida. That is true.
Yeah.
So tell us, how you ended up coaching women in middle age on, being their own sexy selves. Uh, what is it that brought you to this? Because it's not how you started, right?
No, it's not how I started, but it's what my journey's been based on for most of my life without me realizing it. Mainly being raised by a single mom for most of my childhood and watching her struggle with the ins and outs of that and seeing how, didn't see that at the time, but was able to look back, seeing how it affects how I showed up in the world and how I perceived the world, why she was doing the best she could. Um, and essentially the being a single mom and what I just experienced a lot of abandonment through my life because of her having to do the best she could and juggle so much. So through me constantly experiencing some form of abandonment by people closest to me, essentially led me to a lot of trauma and self-sabotage in my own life as I grew up because I had this deep sense of being abandoned. Essentially, from what I perceived, didn't matter if I was a good person, didn't matter what I did. People in my life were going to leave me, and that put me on a downfall of lying, cheating, all these
All
terrible
those
side
charming
effects.
behaviors that
Yeah,
really work in relationships.
yeah. All these mistakes and downfalls, which ended up me essentially creating abandonment for myself, right? Because only so many people put up with self-centered, self-sabotaging things, and so really, you know, once it came around first full circle from me being a self-absorbed model and completely being a terrible boyfriend and all of that stuff. Once I did my own healing and own research on myself and finally took ownership of all my behaviors, I was able to unpack my life. And it didn't excuse any of my behaviors, but it helped me understand more and more. And then that naturally led to essentially me having some pretty powerful insight for women that have been on the other side of dealing with men and unhealed trauma. So helping them, heal, but also understand that, it's usually has nothing to do with them, and really opening that level of freedom for them to create, a mental, emotional, but also a physical transformation. So it's kind of like they get like a backstage pass to how men work that haven't done their own self work, and then that kind of sets them free from a lot of burdens and guilt and shame and heartbreak that they've been carrying once they kind of see that it was never about them, that those things were actually there way before they showed up in that guy's life. Um, so
And so I get how that would, like I said in the intro, that would have people get access to rediscovering their self-worth if they separate what happened from having it be about them and
mhm.
being able
Yeah,
to, have it be that person's stuff, not having to bleed onto them. But how do they reshape their bodies from
yeah.
doing that? I haven't made the connection yet, so I'm
Oh,
curious how you work with them
yeah.
to do that.
Yeah, so essentially, I always go back to what I witnessed my mom doing firsthand, right, and just keeping her head above water. but also slowly losing her confidence because she didn't like the way her body looked, right? And being uncomfortable in her own skin. So then now she's not going to the beach, and now she's not doing these social activities and things that she loves because she's not.
Cyclical, yeah, it's like a
Yeah,
self-fulfilling
yeah. So
prophecy,
she
huh?
gets stuck in this trap. Yeah, and so um, I spent about a decade as a personal trainer and online fitness coach, and essentially, so what I did is just make a program to help women naturally raise their metabolism with the least amount of work for the women that don't have all this time to spend hours in the gym and really don't have the time or money to sit and meal prep every single day. And so I created that, um, and it goes hand in hand because I quickly realized that the physical and the mental is all connected, right? So usually, if we have a woman come in who wants to physically transform, we quickly realize that there's some inner work that has to go first before the outer work, and then we have women that come into the program strictly for the healing, and then realize that the body transformation is just a natural byproduct of her going on that emotional healing journey. So then it all becomes connected and very streamlined. So we have everything working together. So the physical results come much quicker, and then the healing results come much quicker because now they're becoming more confident just based off their body changing in the mirror. So now we create like this vortex of
of of
forward momentum.
effectiveness. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. And
yeah,
so tell me what the acronym divorced stands for, because I was
yeah.
trying to figure that one out too. And I was like, nah,
Oh,
I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to ask him. It's much easier. I'm not going to spend
yeah,
time on this.
yeah. So the acronym divorce. So the D stands for discover your true worth. The I is for ignite your inner strength. The V is for visualize the life that you deserve. The O is for overcome your self doubt. The R is for reclaim your confidence.
Oh my
The
God, you can't remember this. You have to have a cheat sheet somewhere.
sometimes I do remember it, but when I'm on
Yeah.
podcasts, I'm like, I
Yeah.
better have a cheat
Yeah,
sheet because my luck, I'll
exactly. I
forget
was
it.
like, this is a long acronym. Oh my Lord.
Yeah,
Okay, the R.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The R is reclaim your confidence. C is commit to your personal growth. E is for empowering yourself daily. And then D is define your new path forward. So essentially, like you said, it's a long acronym, but it's a step-by-step process. So women have a starting point and a finishing point, and they know how to get there instead of being like, we all want these certain things, but we have no idea how to get there, right?
Yeah.
So that's why the first one is discover your true worth. First, you have to understand what that worth actually is, and then we can go through the process, and then we can light up that worth that's been inside you this whole time that it was buried under trauma or whatever it may be.
Yeah, I know I work with a lot of women over 40. Um, I also coach men, so I have about a 50-50 split on that.
Mm-hmm.
But the women that I work with that are going through either marriage issues or they're just post-divorce and sort of starting a whole new chapter, um, I definitely see a common theme of unresolved trauma. And because it's not childhood, it's
Mm-hmm.
not related to necessarily as trauma, because most people associate trauma with
Mm,
some sort of childhood trauma. What do
right.
you find in working with people, let's say in that age category? I know you mostly work with people over 35, but
Mm-hmm.
generally in that age category, what's like the biggest thing that messes with them? As you know, this is called be unmessable with. So I always like to ask in your industry what you find really throws people off track or messes with them.
I think the biggest thing that throws people off track is really they have no idea who they are. So, like, with my clients, I literally ask, "Who are you?" Right? And what happens is, what we all do is we say, "Well, I'm a great mother, I'm a great boss, I'm an employee, I'm a great friend, all these things." So then you have to reframe it like, and God forbid, but if you just woke up tomorrow with no family and no career, right?
Yes, cancel,
Who are
cancel. But
you?
yeah,
Right,
yeah,
right. Who are you? And that becomes really hard to answer, right? Because we only know our attachments and our titles. So if you think about it, if we're just going through life, meeting people and building these connections, and we have no idea who we are, it's nearly impossible for us to show up in our most authentic self. So the moment, something comes up or a red flag or a trigger, we automatically alter our state to become something else because we don't have that sense. So then that's why there's all this just craziness and people feel like relationships are crazy these days and there's no good men or women or whatever, it's because we don't even know the sense of ourself. Where if we had that, right, we're able to meet somebody in our authentic
Yeah.
version and we can pretty clearly tell if they're the right fit or not. So even if we go through a divorce or break up, we're still rooted in that same person. And we don't start attaching limiting beliefs like, oh, I'll never find love, or oh, I messed up, I'm not deserving. Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. It's very similar to what I create with people because unmessable with doesn't mean being tough or something or not feeling your
Right.
feelings. It's about being able to stand in your creation and your
Yeah.
vision, not
Yeah.
get hooked by reaction and survival. So it's very congruent with
Yeah.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
And ultimately, if who you are is unmessable with, it's that you are clear who you are as a creation, not as a
Yeah.
decision you made when you were 5 or 15 or
That's right.
45. Yeah,
That's right.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah. We talk about
interesting.
the same thing. You're the woman you were put on this earth to be, right? That person that we were created to be. It never actually leaves, right? Our gifts are inside us. They don't get taken away, but they get buried under things. And so the moment we're able to reconnect to that most authentic self, it's literally like a whole new universe, new feeling, new everything opens up.
Yes, you
Like
are
you said, you
definitely
become
preaching to the choir.
you become unmessable with, right? It
That's
means you're able to
right.
ride the roller coaster and you're still solid, right? It
Yeah,
doesn't
and
mean
you're
you don't
not
get upset.
vomiting all over the place and
Yeah,
and trying to
I
jump
love
out
it.
of the car.
Yeah,
But given that this is called Be Unmessable With, I always like to ask every guest to, recall a situation in your life that was really the potential to take you out of the game, so to speak, and mess
yeah,
with you, but somehow you rose above it or you transcended those circumstances and were
yeah,
able to emerge unmessable with. What's something that comes to mind for you?
yeah. There's only one thing that comes to mind. It was my suicide attempt, and so because I had got to the point where I had created so much hurt and self sabotage that I was essentially at rock bottom. But from that suicide attempt, I was able to essentially, I had to take an honest look, and the common denominator in all my strife and troubles was me. And for so long, I had blamed it on other people and all these things. But the common denominator was me. And so I was able to, like, okay, well, if I'm the common denominator in essentially all this mess, and that, so I'm essentially the creator of this also means I can create something else. So then it was a matter of me just taking extreme ownership of where I was at.
Mm,
And then once I had ownership of that, that means from that moment forward, I am able to create whatever life I want. And now I just have a lot, way more insight and wisdom. And I know dang sure what I don't want.
that's
So,
right. That is a good
so
truing mechanism. It's like, okay, well, I don't want
yeah,
that, so let's new game.
yeah. So the moment I
Yeah.
took extreme ownership, I essentially became unmessable with from
Yeah,
that.
no, I get it. So taking extreme ownership and then creating, not just
Hmm.
owning and just, because that's like sort of a neutral space that doesn't last.
Yeah,
But if you look in your life now, I don't know how long ago was that attempt?
5 years.
5 years. So it's
Yeah.
been far enough away where you've built muscle around not
Hmm.
that world, right?
Yeah.
So what do you rely on now for resilience and for being able to kind of bounce back from whatever life is throwing at you that might be challenging?
Yeah. So it's almost like we just talked about. So I had to go back and relearn who I was before my first experience of abandonment, which was like at the age of 7. So essentially, who that guy was, and also realize that no matter really what transpires in my life, the only way for me to be abandoned is if I abandon myself that I've done, right? And so now that I have the clarity of who I am, why I was put on this earth, and the fact that I know I'll never be abandoned unless I choose to, then, right, people's words or old triggers or people's stories or what their judgment against me, they no longer affect me and they no longer trigger me back into the
Mhm.
darkness or whatever. So then I'm able to stay on my path because I have essentially a foundation built. And then I just keep building on that foundation and keep building a taller and taller building until essentially the things way down there, they don't bother me anymore like they used to. And that's
Yeah.
what I was talking about. So like those people who, if you don't know who you are, you're going to be dragged in all these different directions. Where
Yeah,
if you do know
you're
who you are,
messable with, you're just a
you're
leaf in the
messable with.
wind of
Yeah,
whatever,
exactly.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and just, for all the women listening, because I do have a lot of women listeners, all right, give them what or give us one thing that we can do to increase our metabolism.
One thing to increase your metabolism is eat a fist size of protein 3 times a day.
Okay, a fist size of protein 5 times a day. 5 times a
Three,
day?
no,
Three
three
times a
times,
day. I
three
was like,
times.
5 times? Who has time to eat 5 times a day?
Yeah,
My God.
yeah.
Okay, well, that's something that people can actually take action on now. And then in regards to the mindset piece,
Mhm.
what's an action somebody listening could do that would free them up and enable to, get them to start to see who they really are, rediscover who they really are?
If you take a sheet of paper and list out all the negative things you say about yourself when things go wrong in your life, and then go back through that list and write the exact opposite next to it, those positive statements will redirect you back to your gifts that you were born on and put on this earth with.
Beautiful. I love how simple you make
Yeah,
things. It's like actionable, it's simple, it's not some big complex process. It's
yeah,
great. It's great, except
yeah.
for your acronym, which is like 9 miles long. But
I know that took
everything
that took up most of the time,
I
but
know,
it gets it.
yeah, really. And is there anything you want to leave the listeners with in terms of an action or how they could find you or what they could do to work with you or
Yeah, so the best way just to connect with me is you can message me on Instagram at Derek Newborn or Facebook at Derek Newborn. I keep it super organic, so if you just want to check it out or just say hi, or if you have questions or insights, you just shoot me a DM and we can have a conversation. There's all kinds of fun stuff on there. So yeah, social media is the best way. Or
perfect,
if they want
perfect.
if they want more info about the metabolism program, they just go to dereknewborn.com.
Okay, good. I'll make sure that all those links and ats are in the show notes so everybody doesn't have to write anything down. You can just click easily.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for, taking some time to be with us today. And,
Thank
I'll
you.
just, yeah, absolutely. And thanks for what you're doing for people that, obviously it makes a big difference. So,
I
thanks
appreciate
for
it.
standing for women
Yes, ma'am.
like your mom,
Absolutely. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
and for those of you listening, if you got value out of today's episode, please share it and by all means like and subscribe, but share it with somebody that you think it would make a difference for because that's really the point of this podcast is empowering people to live their dreams and be unmessable with. So the more people that hear the valuable insights and strategies and actions on this show, the more people get to have that difference made. So thanks for being here. Thank you again for tuning in to this week's episode of Be Unmessable with the podcast. And I never take for granted that you spend time with me. And I always want to make sure that you get value when you do. So I am including in the show notes a link for you for our Basics of Being Unmessable with workbook. It's a 12-page workbook that gives you all the basics of developing yourself to be unmessable with no matter what life throws at you, to be able to shift from the world of reaction to creation on a dime. And it'll give you a whole practice that you can implement in your daily life over and over and over again. So click on the link below and grab that 12-page workbook and let me know what you discover as you engage with it. Have a great week.